Hi, it's the Randy Karraker Show on STL Sports Central, and we are presented by DraftKings, where the crown is yours. Matthew Rocchio, Randy Karraker, great to have you with us. In the Flash, apparently official, not from Dallas, but St. Louis City SC has some smoke billowing.
Yes, I guess it's white smoke when the new pope was chosen. White smoke being seen earlier today, just off of Market Street, and that's because St. Louis City SC has made it official, the record transfer signing. Although that part isn't officially reported, but all the reporting from Norway has been rock solid at this point. So I'm willing to roll with it. It is a record transfer signing for St. Louis City for a reported just under $4 million signing. Senegalese center back, 21-year-old Fallou Fall, joins from Fredrikstad, which is a Norwegian club. He originally went from his home country of Senegal to France to play in Reims or Reims, however you say that one. And then he went from there to Norway with Fredrikstad. He played just this half year, the second half of the season, or this first half of the season, I should say, for Fredrikstad. They got him for a reported $500,000. So a quick profit for Fredrikstad. And now Fallou Fall arrives to St. Louis City SC as their most expensive transfer fee, and also a contract signed through 2028 with an extension for 2029 that makes him just one of 3 St. Louis City players signed through 2028. That is including Makai Joyner having an option year in 2028. So the future being locked in at St. Louis City SC, this time with a center back, Fallou Fall, 21 years old, 6'4". He's one of the best passers. If you look at scouting services, he was ranked as the 11th all-around center back under 21 in all of Europe. And that's on a ranking with players from Barcelona, Real Madrid, the biggest clubs in France and England. So this is a absolute talent that Lutz Pfannenstiel in St. Louis City just went out to. And credit to Carolyn Kindle and everyone to criticize this ownership group for being cheap, quote unquote cheap. $4 million for a youth player, an investment who...
Did you say Ute?
Yeah, I did say Ute, who, if he plays well in 2 years, could be the kind of guy who gets sold to an EPL team or transferred to an EPL team for $20-25 million. Ooh. This is a huge swing for St. Louis City SC.
And not far behind, Mbappe, right?
Probably not. Okay. Also, again, Mbappe, his PSG, they got better when he left. I don't think you want him,
Do you
Randy.
like those PSG clubs?
No, I don't know how to answer that question. I don't even know what that's supposed to mean.
It was PXG.
PXG. Okay. I see what you're saying.
All right. I don't know why you guys don't like the home run derby. I think that the home run derby is a million times better than it was when. Well, here's the thing: the style of the derby is better. Are the home runs more fun than when McGuire was hitting them? No, that was awesome. Steroid home run derbies were the best, but the style of the derby, the fact that it gets done at 10 o'clock now, it's timed. It's a way better experience timed than it was untimed. It used to be, man, like pulling teeth. It was really boring.
Yeah.
And now with the timer, and you know exactly that there's a finite amount of time involved. The players know that. The players have to be in different condition than they were when they could just go and go and go until they made however many 5 outs. I really like the home run derby better. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but compared to what it was before the rules changes, I liked last night. I thought the Cal Raleigh experience was great. I liked Junior Caminero playing in the finals. I didn't have any problem with the home run derby. Now, why do people hate it, Matthew? That's my question.
All I've seen is people complaining about the time rounds factor. People want it to be like a 10 outs thing every time. I think
because baseball is timeless.
Wow.
Yeah. No.
That joke's got layers. I think that's why people complain about it. I think a lot of people last night were also mad with Pat McAfee. I think that's just something because people complain about Chris Berman and back. Yeah. People complain about that, in my opinion, are a bunch of boring sods who hate fun.
Yeah.
I also think people who hate Pat McAfee correctly pointing out that Cal Raleigh has the biggest ass of professional sports. What's not fun about that one? To Jeremy Hodges' point,
did he include football players?
No, he should have. And Pat McAfee knows the biggest asses in sports are obviously football players. Anterior, posterior chain. The quickest cheat code in scouting is does the athlete you're looking at have a big ass? Then they're probably a good athlete. It makes sense when you don't think about it too hard.
Brett Rooker was complaining about it. That's because he and you never want to say this as a guy, but the other guy was an inch longer. But here's he got beat. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, Brent Rooker was not happy. Distance was the
size matters.
Was the determining factor, and he was not happy that Kyle Riley's home run was determined to be just a couple inches longer.
Quit whining. Quit. You don't like it. Play better, right? You have an extra Wheatie in the morning. One Wheatie would have been that 1 inch. Brent Rooker, so don't complain.
I love the home run derby. It's also fun just because it brings you players. Like I know that Junior Caminero has been having a good season, but to be honest with you, I haven't been able to watch very many Tampa Bay Rays games this year, and so I haven't been able to tap in to Junior Caminero, and so getting to watch him rake and go shot for Kyle Riley, and because of what Kyle Riley is doing in Seattle, I've seen a lot of Kyle Riley this year, and so I haven't got to see a lot of Junior Caminero. So that's one of the best parts about the Derby, and why really the point of all-star games, and maybe why we see a guy like Miz instead of Phil Maton. I always want to call him Matone. You ruined my ability to
Phil Matone.
You ruined my ability to pronounce that man's name correctly. No, it's not.
Probably
it's
right.
not all right. It's horrible. This is why we have fun. This is the point of the moments, and I had fun last night because I'm sitting there watching Kyle Riley do this. I'm watching everyone's fawning over the big dumper, and I'm sitting there asking myself two questions, which is where does the big dumper rank in the echelon of sports nicknames? And can a catcher from Seattle legitimately be the most well-known casual name in Major League Baseball?
Casual name? Yeah, I think he can.
That's wild to me.
I mean, Ken Griffey Jr. was in Seattle, and
but again, the point is though that the catcher spot is usually it's like the drummer in a band. It's never on Front Street. You have your Mike Piazzas and things like that. But it just feels like a catcher for the Seattle Mariners is like a Mad Libs for the position you'd pick to be the least likely to be a face of baseball. That's all I'm saying is that when you say the Seattle Mariners catcher is one of the biggest faces of baseball, it's like, none of this computes well. And so, but he's got the nickname. He's obviously in the middle of a historic season.
Big dumper. I mean, he would, in a battle between himself and Ted Williams, he comes in fourth, right?
What was
the Splendid Winter?
What were the other three from Ted Williams?
Well, you got Teddy Ballgame.
Yeah, that's okay. Big Dumper is better than Teddy Ballgame.
The Splendid Splinter, no, Big Dumper is not better than Teddy Ballgame. You've got Stan the Man. You've got the Yankee Clipper. You've got the Babe. You've got the Iron Horse.
The Yankee Clipper is so good. I should have couched it 21st century sports nicknames, because we've had this conversation a lot. It's just the quality of the sports nickname fell off around 1993. I want to say we still got Big Mac, but like what everyone was trying to get us to call him Slammin' Sammy or something like that, or what with Sammy Sosa. Like it wasn't like the nickname. It was starting to really fall off in the late 90s. We were losing as soon as we got those paper cups with the purple and blue design. That's when ingenuity and our ability to think of fun new things in America started going down on a down path, like 1994.
So Ted Williams' 4 nicknames were the Kid, Teddy Ballgame, the Splendid Splinter, or Thumper.
Thumper's God. I really like Thumper. Was that was Ted Williams playing before or after Bambi came out?
He was playing before Bambi came out.
Never mind then. Bub says Big Dumper is one of the best sports nicknames you can have, indicative of a large posterior, I suppose. Yes, Bubs, you don't need to suppose. That's the exact point of the Big Dumper nickname. It's better than the Big Dipper, which was what Will Chamberlain was called. I think Big Dumper is better than Big Dipper. Namu Nalu, the Fordham Flash.
Fordham Flash was another great nickname.
Again, I'm talking about 21st
Cannon.
See, I to this day, I'm sorry, like this is a weird thing, but like I legitimately got bothered by Brooke and people dismissing that nickname like it was dumb.
Mason Wynn.
It is a fantastic nickname for Mason Wynn. I don't care what anybody says. It's a perfect nickname for Mason Wynn. It denotes one of the most best things about him. It brings exactly that point. The Kansas City Comet, the Fordham Flash, the alliterative nickname that combines something special about you and where you're from. It is a perfect concoction. It's the peanut butter and jelly of sports nicknames.
Okay, so
I don't know how everyone didn't hear Kingswood Cannon go, yeah, Randy, you finally hit on one. I can understand hating on Nadub. I can understand
Made up great.
broadcasters wanting to strangle you for Big Game Gibby Jim.
Big Game Gibby Jim was great.
But because you Phil Matoned me on that one. Because it's Gibson Jimerson, not Gibby Jim. But Kingswood Cannon was undeniably a fantastic nickname for Mason Wynn.
So let's get that going for Mason Wynn. Okay, let's workshop this. Since the people that participated since the turn of the century, all right? You've got the big unit.
That's a great one.
Yep. You had the Rocket, which
Also
I think was great.
The Rockets. It's just it's short, it's sweet. It brings up the exact picture you would think, which is does Randy Johnson have a bazooka attached to his shoulder?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is yes. He does.
Yeah, the Machine. That's a good one.
Also another good one.
Thank you, Samuel Howe. Let's think here and this can be any sport.
It's one of my favorite ones because
Bound of Rebound.
For me, it's not necessarily about whether or not it's like a great nickname. It's also like when you hear the nickname, does it make you think of like the person you're talking about? And I was driving in the car today and I was trying to think of good nicknames that I would bring up here. And one of my favorite, and he was here as a Ram, but he wasn't good. He was actually only good for a year before he got his knee bent back the other way. Carnell Cadillac Williams is full stop one of the greatest 21st century sports nicknames. It's so perfect because somebody literally said when he was in high school, it looks he runs so smooth, he's like a Cadillac. Perfect. Mwah. Chef kiss. Yep. That is a perfect nickname. Carnell Cadillac Williams hit Auburn in 2006. That is a perfect 21st century sports nickname. One of the top 10.
Okay, and I like it when a little bit of humor is involved. And one of my favorite players of all time was Jared Lorenzen, Kentucky quarterback who wound up playing for the Giants, who was the hefty lefty.
The hefty lefty.
He was the abominable throw man.
I love abominable throw man so much.
He was the BBQ, the big beautiful quarterback. He was J-Load. This is my favorite. He was the Pillsbury throw boy.
The Pillsbury throw boy.
Yep. He was the round mound of touchdown. He was Battleship Lorenzen. That wasn't. He was also in the initial iteration of the XFL. There was a player, running back named He Hate Me.
Yes.
Jared Lorenzen, another of his nicknames was He Ate Me. And then Quarter got back.
Oh, Quarter got back.
Yeah.
So you're right. Just by that, Big Dumper is already 7th or 8th on the list because every single Jared Lorenzen one immediately beats him. Benny the Jet Rodriguez, shout out the Sandlot.
Yep,
I like that one from Topher Rocks.
Jake the Snake Plumber, another good one.
Jake the Snake Plumber. That is an underrated one. I tell you what, he might be the 21st century quarterback we talk about the least. We never talk about Jake Plummer and those Broncos teams.
No.
Damn it, I love those Broncos teams.
By the way, I appreciate Novel in the Loot, Dr. Doom. Are you aware of Dr. Doom?
Only in the context of the Fantastic Four or MF Doom, the rapper.
Dr. Doom was a linebacker for the football Cardinals. He's drafted out of Texas A&I think in 1978. He considered himself at least the 25th wonder of the world. So he wore a quarter in his ear.
The 24th one.
He said, I got to be at least the 25th wonder of the world. So he wore a quarter in his ear. John Bearfield.
I love that.
Yep. And he was a really good special teams player. And one time just leveled a Los Angeles Rams return guy named Billy Watt. He knocked him out of the game. Next time, because he played on all special teams, next time the Rams got both of his knees and blew out both of his knees and ended his career. Yeah.
Like on purpose?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God. What?
Yeah, they took it. He got their return man, so they got him. And it ended Dr. Doom's career.
That's insane. What a deep cut there. Megatron for Calvin Johnson. It's a very good one. Again, if you grew up watching the Transformers, watching Megatron, it was like you were watching something just completely alien in like a spaceship. It was awesome.
Yeah.
The Galloping Ghost, was that
Red Grange?
Red Grange.
Yeah.
Okay.
Neil Lomax, when he was here, the Gateway Gunner.
Okay.
Roy Jetstream Green. Do you like Roy Jetstream Green? That was fun.
I like that too. I'm going to take a really weird pivot here, but yesterday we were talking about most overrated players in the history of sports.
Uh-huh.
So I got off my Kobe Bryant and Derek Jeter takes like I always do.
Okay,
but I had to argue against somebody because somebody said that Don Coryell Dan Fouts and Neil Lomax were overrated. And I was like, listen here, I'll take this to Randy Karraker and he will give you a better talking to than I will. But I had to give them a talking to because I was like, you're not coming after Air Coryell on my watch and getting away with it.
No, Don Coryell changed the game. He was one of the great offensive minds in the history of the sport. There's no way that he was overrated. He was dramatically and criminally underrated. For him to not make the Hall of Fame until after he had passed was just an abomination. The offense that Mike Martz brought to the NFL, the offense that Sig Gilman utilized in the NFL, those were that Norv Turner used in the NFL with the Cowboys. Those were all a product of Don Coryell. Don Coryell was one of the bright offensive minds in history. He was right there with Bill Walsh. He was superb, and everybody around the sport, whether they played or coached with him or played or coached against him, agrees that Don Coryell was criminally underrated. Dan Fouts was an unbelievable quarterback. Now, did he have weapons? Yes, he had John Jefferson. He had Wes Chandler. He had Kellen Winslow. He had Chuck Muncie. Yes, he had great weapons. That being said, when he threw the ball to them, it got to them, and they were able to score a ton of touchdowns. It's not his fault that Coryell, kind of like here in St. Louis, never put together a defense in San Diego. That's one of the things that was pretty consistent about Coryell. He was a brilliant offensive mind, but he let other people run the defense. And the fact that Fouts had to go to Cincinnati and play in 59 degrees below zero in an AFC championship game, that wasn't his fault. That was the defense's fault. And there were games. There was a game in Miami where the Chargers were way ahead at halftime. Miami comes back and wins it, and an iconic game for Kellen Winslow. And the Chargers wind up losing through no fault of Dan Fouts. And then to Neil Lomax. Let me tell you something. Neil Lomax was drafted by the Cardinals in 1981. If Neil Lomax would have been drafted by the 49ers, and Joe Montana would have been drafted by the Cardinals under Bill Walsh. If Neil Lomax would have been drafted by Bill Walsh, he would have won 4 Super Bowls. And Joe Montana would be a guy that's just a footnote in history here in St. Louis. That is how good Neil Lomax was. Neil Lomax was every bit the quarterback without the surrounding cast that Joe Montana was. And it's unfortunate that he was placed in a situation where, with the ownership that was here and playing on the turf and didn't have the surrounding cast that Joe Montana had, Neil never had the opportunity to win big. But I'm telling you, if Neil would have played on that stage with the 49ers, they would have won 4 Super Bowls under Neil Lomax. Let me tell you another Big Red foot quarterback story. And I think every rational person will agree with this. If you would have put Jim Hart on the Steelers and Terry Bradshaw on the St. Louis Cardinals, same thing would have happened. Jim Hart was as good as or better than Terry Bradshaw. And Bradshaw, he wound up throwing more interceptions in his career, so did Hart, than touchdowns. They didn't care about it. They had the same kind of arm. They were basically the same quarterback, Bradshaw and Hart were, except Bradshaw, number one, had the steel curtain defense. But he had a couple of Hall of Fame receivers. He had Benny Cunningham at tight end. He had Franco Harris in the backfield.
Arguably the most underrated Hall of Fame receiver of all time in John Stallworth.
Yeah, I would. I can't disagree with that. So I would go that far too. But yeah, to say that Coryell, Fouts, Lomax are overrated is preposterous. It's preposterous, egregious, and something else.
Other Jackie Child's words.
Yeah.
No way did Randy just say Neil Lomax equals Joe Montana. Did I hear that right? You apparently did not hear it right. You got to clean a little bit of lax out of your ears, because it's a team game, and we all can point out the fact that the 49ers had some very good rosters built around Joe Montana. And so what he said was that if Neil Lomax was on those 49ers teams, because of his raw talent as a quarterback, he also would have won a bunch of Super Bowls.
Yep. And if Joe Montana were here trying to throw to J.T. Smith, and all due respect, Doug Marsh, and handing off to Randy Love, and it just would not have been the same for Joe Montana as it was for him in San Francisco. And the late great Louis Sharp and Tootie Robbins as kids, and Terry Steve and Randy Clark at center, and Joe Bostic, the offensive line wasn't as good. with all due respect to Coach Hannafin, who was great, but he wasn't the mind offensively that Bill Walsh was. I think we can all reasonably agree with that. Bill Walsh would have won with Neil Lomax, and Hanna, because of the limitations here presented by ownership, would not have been able to win with Joe Montana. That's what I'm saying.
Considering we got into that overrated debate,
can I make one more point?
Go for it.
Joe Montana, third-round draft choice, becomes great under Bill Walsh. Steve Young, terrible in Tampa Bay, goes and plays under Bill Walsh and becomes great. And by the way, even like Jeff Kemp played really well under Bill Walsh. The system was there, the players were there. So it wouldn't have just been Lomax. A lot of quarterbacks could have been placed in that situation in San Francisco and succeeded.
I not to take a shot, but is there anybody over the years that kind of over the years you've kind of been, because I don't know if you want to use the word overrated, but somebody that you're surprised that they get the credit they receive now 20 or 30 years down the line. You're just like, I remember that guy.
Well,
I never felt it.
There's one right now.
Okay.
Bill Belichick.
Oh, yes, of course.
Bill Belichick without Tom Brady, and I've given this statistic if you've never heard it before. Bill Belichick's winning percentage without Tom Brady as his quarterback, when he didn't have Brady with the Patriots or when he was with Cleveland, his winning percentage is worse than Rex Ryan, worse than Norv Turner.
That's bad.
Way worse than Jeff Fisher. Jeff Fisher was just over 500. Bill Belichick's winning percentage is like 473 without Tom Brady. So he's dramatically overrated in terms of players that are overrated and maybe products of a system, or that we could let's see. I don't know.
I'm not saying they weren't great. It's just like over the years they've been put up a little bit too high.
You know who I always thought was a product of another guy?
Mm-hmm.
This might sound bad, but I always thought, as great as he was, I thought Kevin McHale was great because of Larry Bird.
Wow, I like that take. That's fascinating.
If you put Kevin McHale on another team that wasn't the Lakers at that time, if you put him on, and he wound up going to the Rockets, I think, and he didn't do anything. But if you put him on another team, I don't think he carries another team. He was great, but Bird carried that team, and I don't think McHale could.
I think that's that's a great take. He's a Hall of Famer,
mm-hmm.
but he wins back-to-back Sixth Man of the Year awards in his 26 and 27-year seasons, and he makes a couple All-Stars, makes a couple All-Defensive teams. But yeah, that's an incredibly good poll. Nicely done, Randy Karraker. I love that call. That's because he's probably still a borderline Hall of Famer. Yeah. It's just he's probably not 6-time All-Defensive. He never has the luxury of being the sixth man on a couple of the greatest rosters in basketball history in the mid-'80s Boston Celtics. That's a great pick. I love that one.
And I don't think, even like if you put him with a great player like Dominique Wilkins in Atlanta, I think Bird was just at a different level, and Bird won games.
Okay, then.
So
I like that take.
Samuel Howe, was Scottie Pippen only as good as Michael Jordan allowed him to be? I think that's very well worded, because I think Scottie was a great Robin to Michael's Batman. I don't think anybody, except for Scottie, will say that he was as good as Michael Jordan was. That being said, I think Jordan suppressed him a little bit.
I think Jordan definitely suppressed him. And the fact that he finishes in the top 10 of MVP voting, top 5 of Defensive Player of the Year, and he finishes as an All-Star and on first team NBA and first team All-NBA and first team defense. He does all that in the 2.5 seasons that Jordan's gone. In fact, if you loop in the third season where Jordan comes back, he still finishes top 5 in MVP, top 2 in Defensive Player of the Year, and he's an All-Star, All-NBA, and All-NBA defense. So the fact that he's doing all of that in the years where Michael leaves is, I think, says a lot about what Scottie could be. Now, part of that is also a team that was just like chugging along. It was perfectly built. Everyone knew their role in the triangle, so on and so forth. But nonetheless, when you look at those numbers and what he was able to do, I mean, 22, 8, 5, and 3, and that 3 is steals, and also there's another block on there. That's his season in 94-95. That is MVP level stuff from a small forward in the NBA right now. Pippen was, I think, just like McHale, to your point, he's a Hall of Famer if he's never on Michael Jordan's team, but we don't talk about it in the same way we do now.
And I don't think that he leads teams to championships, with all due respect.
No, and we have a chat here from Keith Adams. We saw Scottie after MJ, not as good. Ask Portland and Houston. I think,
Houston.
But part of that is also though his first season in Houston, he's 33, and then you see in Portland. Yeah, we saw Scottie Pippen without Michael Jordan in his prime, and we saw what he did, and that was he was a top 5 player in the NBA those 2 years.
Yeah. Anomal in the loose. Stop it, Randy. I'm starting to tear up hearing all of those Big Red names. Those were fun days. That was my childhood football team, and I loved the Big Red. And I know there's people that wish they would come back here. We aren't getting another team, but if you jump on the Cardinal bandwagon, and me and Greg Amsinger have jumped on the Cardinal bandwagon because, and it's truly one of those situations where nobody will ever accuse you of being a front runner if you jump on the football Cardinal bandwagon. Not that I'm emotionally invested, but that's the team that I want to win the most. And obviously, when they play the Rams twice a year, I want them to win.
It helps.
Okay, we're going to talk to John Denton in a moment. I'm going to say I've got a great Liam Doyle story coming for you here that we'll tell with John Denton in just a moment. But I want you to know about what's going on with my friends over at DraftKings Pick 6. I want you to download DraftKings Pick 6 because it makes playing and watching sports so much fun. Just download DraftKings Pick 6. The app is easy to download, and then use that promo code STL Sports. And when you do, you're going to get $50 in bonus cash, bonus picks when you invest just $5 at DraftKings Pick 6. I've teamed up with them because it's so much fun, and it does change the way you watch sports. It's easy to start, fun to follow, and gives you a whole new way to stay connected to the game. And there are so many different ways to go about using it. You can use it for multi-sports to put together parlays. You can just do 2. If you want to do 6 different picks, you can, overs and unders, and have a great time.
And Samuel asked us, yes, there are all-star game props that you can put up right now. You can pick with a 3.3x bonus. You can take Aaron Judge for more than half to hit a home run. Shohei Ohtani's a 3.5x bonus
against Scooble.
Ooh, I mean, for 3.5x bonus, I think I might be taking that one. So you got a home run, and you got strikeouts thrown for all the pitchers. So Aroldis Chapman, you can take more than 1.5 strikeouts thrown on any of these pitches, like Josh Hader, Munoz, Skeens. So you got home runs, you got strikeouts thrown, even hits, runs, and RBIs props right now on DraftKings Pick 6 for the All-Star game.
How do you like Paul Skeens at 1.5 strikeouts?
I love that one, actually. That's fantastic. Are you kidding me? He's going to get some run support tonight.
Yeah, and he's not going to stay in the game long enough probably to face Javi Baez, but there's a strikeout right there, right? That's happening. And then Cal Raleigh. Yeah, I like this one. Cal Raleigh, 1.5 hits plus runs plus RBIs. As hot as he is after last night.
That's a good one to take right there.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Cal Raleigh, and then I'm going to go with Skeens over 1.5 strikeouts, and that's what we're going to have with DraftKings Pick 6. Utilize it. The crown is yours. All right. Do we have our guy up yet? We're waiting.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
All right, our buddy John Denton, who covers the Cardinals for MLB.com, is with us now on the Randy Karraker Show here on STL Sports Central. There is the great John Denton. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Randy. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for being with us. We do appreciate it. You're here in town in St. Louis, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Now we got it immediately right out of the gate. The color shirt he's wearing and the stadium in the background, because we're going to be talking plenty about Tennessee Volunteers on today's show, because the Cardinals just picked straight from that state for their first 3 picks, and they did not shy away from it. So I love you're painting the picture already for this conversation with the shirt and the background choice, John.
Just a mere coincidence, who would have thought that? I never thought we would talk about Tennessee.
Yeah. Do we have a cursor on John's forehead?
Yes, but you can't see it on the screen. You're fine.
Okay,
it's just us.
Okay, there we just moved. Okay, John, I don't know if I know that you've done a lot of research on Liam Doyle, but I want to tell you a story I heard yesterday from the St. Louis and the Smet grad, Mizzou grad, Tony Vitello, who's the head coach at Tennessee. So I said there's a lot of pitchers that have come out of college and have number one stuff. I said, you've seen a major league number one. Number one, let me tell you this, compared to a left-handed Paul Skeens, which is phenomenal to me. So that makes me very excited. But I asked about the demeanor of Liam Doyle, and this is what Tony Vitello said. He said he wants the ball when the lights are brightest. He said, on May 30th, Doyle struck out 11 and got a win against Miami of Ohio in the regional. Threw 104 pitches, and he wanted to pitch on Saturday, and they wouldn't let him. And then he wanted to pitch on Sunday. Threw 104 pitches on Friday, wouldn't let him pitch on Saturday, wouldn't let him pitch on Sunday. He kept whining, not whining, but saying, hey, let me pitch, let me pitch, let me pitch. They give him the ball against Wake Forest in the 7th inning on Monday, on 2 days rest after 104 pitches. And Tony said probably had his best game of the year, struck out 5 of the 7 batters that he faced on 2 days rest. Bob Gibson stuff there. And apparently he's this way all the time.
Yeah, Tony has said that he's as competitive as any player he's ever coached, which is really saying something for a guy who's won a national championship. But he's a guy he's dialed into every pitch. He's fired up. Randy Flores commented the other day. He said he was shocked because they were talking to him and he was calm. And, he was, very understated. And they're like, this is the same guy who dances and waves his arms on the mound. And Tony even compared him to Al Hrabosky the other night, So longtime Cardinal fans will remember what Al Hrabosky, Hall of Famer, was like on the mound. So, he's a guy who's going to challenge you. He believes in his stuff. His stuff is usually good enough. So, hey, if you can back it up, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, the comp I heard was half Al Hrabosky, half Max Scherzer. That'd be a pretty competitive pitcher.
There's some Chris Carpenter there too. He's a fellow New Hampshire guy. Chris Carpenter was his former summer ball coach. He's met Chris Carpenter several times. He's talked to him about St. Louis. He said Tony would talk about St. Louis and the Cardinals all the time. So he knows what he's getting himself into. And if he could be half of Chris Carpenter, Cardinal fans would be very happy.
John, I think that's a big deal. I think wanting the ball and wanting to have the situation with the bright lights and then performing when the lights are brightest, I think that's really important for a major league team, for a leader of a staff like a Chris Carpenter, like a Bob Gibson, like a guy that from the 80s, Joaquin Andujar was that way, a guy that wants the ball in those situations. I think that's really important for a winning staff.
Yeah, I mean, you want a guy who's a stopper. If you lose the first 2 in a series or whatever, you want a guy who says, we're not losing today, get on my back. Adam Wainwright used to be like that. Chris Carpenter used to be like you said, Joaquin Andujar, Steve Carlton, who my dad said would take the ball and said, we're not losing today, boys. You want that kind of guy. You want the guy who is the stopper, the guy who wants the ball when the pressure's on. And, from everything you've seen, this kid enjoys the pressure. He thrives off the pressure. And like we also said, this is the most important thing, Randy. He has the stuff to back it up. Like he can hit 101 with that fastball. He can wipe you out with that slider. So it's definitely number one stuff, and it comes with a little bit of swagger too. So it should be fun to watch.
And that's the big thing. People talking about the attitude and the mindset. It seems like such a big change from what we usually see from an organization a lot of people I think would describe as staid. And so not only do they make a big swing, but it's not a third rounder, it's not a fifth rounder. It's the most important pick arguably for this team in the last 20 years. What was your thought about just how the attitude and maybe a new age of the Cardinals matches up?
I thought Randy Flores said something very interesting yesterday. We talked to him after the second round of the draft, and he said, we were going to go big. And if you look at the 2 pitchers that they picked in the first round, both of them are over 100 miles an hour. The 10 arms that they picked on Monday, most of them were, plus strikeout guys, like big swing and miss guys. We all know, and frustratingly so, the Cardinals for almost 10, 15 years now have been pitch to contact. I think those days are going away. I think Chaim Bloom sees that you can't survive that way anymore, especially with no shift. You've got to get swing and miss guys. You got to get guys if there's a runner on second and third and one out, you got to get a guy in there who can throw the ball by somebody and get swing and miss. And a lot, they picked 12 pitchers in this draft. Just about all 12 of them have through the roof strikeout numbers. So they're going for swing and miss now.
John, I totally understand that you don't draft for need in the baseball draft. That being said, the Cardinals waited a really long time to draft a right-handed power hitter for an organization that really has a dearth of right-handed power hitters.
Yeah, that's a little bit surprising, Randy. I thought they might go outfielder. I mean, this team hasn't had a homegrown all-star outfielder since Alan Craig. And he wasn't even really an outfielder. We all know that. So It's been a long time since they had an outfielder make an all-star game. So they need that right-handed bat. They need Jordan Walker to become that. They've got to get right-handed element back to this team. If you saw before the break, every team was throwing a lefty. Even on both days when the Braves had to throw bullpen guys, they went lefty because the Cardinals lineup is loaded with left-handers. They need more right-handed thump in this lineup. If they do go get somebody before the break, and I think that's a very small thing, a small odds of happening, I do think they need to try to go get a right-handed bat. I asked John Mozeliak about that 2 weeks ago at Wrigley Field. Do you need to go get a right-handed bat? Because left-handers, kill this team because there's so many lefties in the lineup.
So considering there's so many lefties in the lineup, considering there is a logjam of sorts at certain positions, and considering the only thing that you have coming up over the next couple of years is more left-handed hitting from those exact positions where you already have a logjam, would you be surprised if we saw maybe not one of the big names, obviously, but maybe one of the smaller pieces like a Sajaci? Would you be surprised if they were involved in some kind of combined move for the future at the deadline where they use Sajaci to in a deal that does get other prospects for maybe later on down the road?
I think, possibly. I don't know how much market he has right now. He's got to prove that he can stop chasing at the big league level. He's got to prove he can hit at this level. He's swinging at way too many pitches right now. I think he has a 38% chase rate. Pitchers are getting him out with balls off the plate all the time. So he's got to get over the hump there. I wouldn't be shocked if they don't trade from their catcher position. They have tremendous depth at the catching spot. Leonardo Bernal, left-handed hitter. Jimmy Crooks, left-handed hitter. Two of their best players in single A are both catchers who are coming. The Cross kid out of Cincinnati and Raniel Rodriguez is coming too. So they have a lot of depth at catcher. Every team in baseball is looking for catching. If they were to make a deal to try to get somebody at the deadline, I think they could use their catching depth to possibly swing a deal to maybe get a right-handed bat.
John, and you're around Ollie enough. I don't see the Cardinals doing that, though. Do you? I don't see them giving up on the runway that they want to provide these young players. I really do. I get the sense, and tell me if you agree with this, that even in September, it's going to be more about evaluating these players in September than trying to win in September.
Yeah. Randy, he's done a heck of a job. Like Oliver Marmol was given a very tough proposition going into the season. We want you to play Jordan Walker even if he's 0 for 15. We want you to play Nolan Gorman even if he's striking out every other at bat. Like, that's a tough proposition to get going into a season. He's really balanced this really well. And Ollie said the other day, the best kind of development is when you can develop and win at the same time. Like, he knows the pressure of being in St. Louis. He wants Jordan Walker to feel the pressure of having to, win this game tonight while also developing. He wants Nolan Gorman to feel that, Sajaci to feel that. Kyle Leahy, he wants him pitching in big spots, high leverage spots. When you can develop and there's something on the line, that's when you get something out of it. If you're just thrown out there and there's no expectation to win, you're not, are you really developing? So, they've kind of gotten the best of both worlds. I think Oliver Marmol has done a tremendous job. Last year, that was a 70-win team. They won 83 games because of the way he handled the bullpen. Like I said, he had the deck stacked against him this year. And for them to be 5 games over 500 at the deadline, that's some really good managing. I know there's a certain segment of Cardinal fans that don't want to hear that, but this guy's done a heck of a job this year.
Do you see, and right now we're on the 15th, so we're 2 weeks away essentially from the trade deadline. Can you see a scenario in which the Cardinals don't essentially stand pat?
Maybe a small move. I think standing pat may be a victory, Randy. I think they're either going to sell or they're going to stand pat. I don't think they're going to go spend and bring talent in. That series against it's kind of getting overlooked. They opened with 3 at Arizona. They opened it, and then they have 3 at Colorado. That 4-game series at Busch Stadium against the Padres, that likely could decide which direction they go. Because it's going to be the Giants, the Padres, and the Cardinals fighting for that last spot. I was joking with Ollie the other day. One thing that works against the Cardinals, the Giants and the Padres have 13 games against the Rockies. That works against the Cardinals. If you look at the Royals last year, the Royals basically got into the playoffs because they went 12-1 against the White Sox. The same sort of thing could happen this year, with those two NL West teams facing the Rockies 13 times.
Ooh, that's rough. We've gotten a lot of chats over the last few days and over the last week, really, about Church, the AAA outfielder who's hitting big. My big thing with him is because I see the numbers. I see that he's crushing the ball in AAA, but he's doing it in such a small amount of at bats. Is that a legitimate name being thrown around? That the Cardinals could include in a deal, just a small deal, because I know he doesn't have the amount of at bats you'd expect for a guy to be getting that look. But when I see the numbers and when people see the numbers, they want something to happen with that name. Is there something there?
Yeah, I mean, he could be a guy, that could command some attention because not only is he hitting the ball, he's got the best arm of any outfielder in the system. Like, the kid can really throw. There was a day in the Futures game before the season started. He gunned the guy down at the plate where he looked like he had no shot. So he is an elite defender, and his bat is really taking a jump. I mean, look at his numbers at Springfield to get him that promotion to Memphis. I mean, he's a guy who's really taken the jump offensively this year. He's always been that defensive guy who would run it down or throw you out at the plate, but his bat has really taken a leap this year. So, I'm sure there's scouts who've looked at him and seen that he's kind of got the complete package.
Hey, John, I want to go back to college baseball for one quick moment before we let you go, because a couple of years ago, maybe it was last year, the Twins pitching coach left to become the pitching coach at LSU, and the LSU gave him like twice as much money. But with NIL now and the inability to keep players around, you think about a guy like Vitello, he lost 9 players in the first 3 rounds of the draft. And I'm looking at this saying, okay, well, he's got to go out and basically re-recruit a whole other team, and he's got to deal with NIL. Could you see a scenario in which some of the really good college coaches wind up deciding, you know what, I want to get into pro ball, kind of like Chip Kelly left a head coaching job with a stop to become an assistant in the NFL, or the head coach at Boston College who became a head coach at BC, went to become the defensive coordinator of the Packers. Could you see college baseball coaches doing things like that?
Yeah, Randy, I really think it's, these college coaches, they have their hands in the air right now. There's no rules. It's the wild, wild west. I heard a guy tell me the other day, it used to be that you would have a kid come in maybe once a week, once a month, who would say, hey, my dad just lost his job or whatever. We need some money. Can you help us out? I'm hearing now that kids are coming in like after every game. There's 2 or 3 kids saying, I need $5,000 more. I need to get paid what this kid's at Alabama's getting paid. There's a constant stream of renegotiations. And we all know these coaches are having to re-recruit their team every day. They're having to, fight off the wolves and keep guys on their team. So I think there's a lot of college coaches in basketball, football, baseball who are like, this is exhausting, having to re-recruit your team every year. And like you said, I wouldn't be shocked if there's not some college baseball coaches looking to get out of that mess, because clearly there are college football coaches who are, have their hands in the air and just don't understand the system right now.
Last one here before you go, John. Obviously, everyone check out John's work as he covers the Cardinals over at MLB.com. Got some great pieces over the last couple of days. One of the ones that I was diving in and looking at was you breaking down the struggles of Ryan Helsley in the first half. I don't know why I said Arenado on the brain there. But you broke down the numbers, the problems he's had in the first half as he looks to the second half. Some of those numbers extremely problematic. Your thoughts on Ryan Helsley going forward? Do you see them moving him? And if they don't, do you think there's a lane where he salvages things and then maybe they give him the qualifying offer and we see them move forward with him next year?
Yeah, we all know Ryan Helsley was almost unhittable last year. 49 saves, 53 opportunities. He hasn't been bad this year. He just hasn't been to the level that he was last year. And if you look at some of the underlying metrics, the whiff rate is way down. It's top 5 in the league, biggest drop in whiff rate. The strikeout rate has fallen. The chase rate has fallen. The walk rate has gone up. He's had trouble locating his fastball. So Ryan Helsley's having a solid year. He's just not having a lights out all-star year like he had last year. So I do think he's one of their most marketable players. I think if you're looking to get a prospect haul, Ryan Helsley's your guy. I could see them putting like JoJo Romero and Helsley and maybe Arenado together and going to the Phillies and saying, hey, if you're going to win, you got to do something different. I mean, the Phillies are under big time pressure to get over the hump and win this thing. So there will be a market, we all know, because every team needs relievers for Ryan Helsley. JoJo Romero, there will be a market for him. Steven Matz, Phil Maton. That's where they're going to get the most value, is those guys out of the bullpen. And putting it out there, Ollie Marmol's biggest fear is they're going to trade one or two of those guys, and this team is going to start losing games that they normally would have won. And then you start wondering, is this team going to keep fighting the way they have all season? So there's a lot of dynamics at play there.
Is there pickleball in the John Denton near future?
Well, I'm going to be off until Monday. So, yes, there will be lots of pickleball in the future. So I'm going to have my butt out there sweating. I need to after this first half. I've been working too much.
All right. John, we always appreciate your time. Thank you so very much, and we'll see you at the ballpark after the break.
All right, guys. Take care. Thanks for having me.
That's the great John Denton from MLB.com, covers the Cardinals.
God, the Tennessee propaganda just right out of the gate. They're laying it on thick. I tweeted out a picture of John on the show, and I said, listen, I firmly expected to get a heavy dose from Brooke and John throughout the next few years as we watch Liam Doyle and company develop. Because again, the first pick Doyle from Tennessee, the lefty, then they picked a high schooler from Houston High School, which is in Tennessee, this uber athletic shortstop in the second round. In the third round, they went back to the University of Tennessee to draft a right-handed teammate of Liam Doyle's. So it's just all from Tennessee. It's ridiculous. And he shows up and he's got an orange polo on, and he's got the stadium right in the background. Just the propaganda from Brooke and John already being laid on thick. And I appreciate it, because if I got to put a little orange checker on to celebrate a pitcher for the Cardinals who can throw 100 miles per hour, I'll take that sacrifice. I'll wear that.
Will you? Okay.
Here's the thing. I love hating on Tennessee, but I low key absolutely love the orange checkerboard.
I do too.
I love making fun of it, but every time I make fun of it, I'm lying to myself and everyone else out there, because I love the orange checkerboard look.
By the way, Tanner Franklin, the right-hander from Tennessee, 6'5", 225. And word is that their staff was so deep that if Franklin would have pitched for another school, he probably would have gone way higher in the draft. Well, like been a first rounder, but he just didn't get the opportunity to pitch as much for the Volunteers, and that's why he fell in the draft. So that's a name to keep an eye on. Tanner Franklin, the 6'5", 225-pound right-hander out of Tennessee.
Yeah.
Hey, and you know what Tanner Franklin's going to do when he gets here? If he wants to maintain that 6'5", 225-pound physique. He's
gonna get a burger. He's gonna get some fries. He's probably gonna get some trashed wings at the Fenton Bar and Grill.
That's the place to go, and there's no doubt that successful pitchers, that's where they go for a fabulous meal. Maybe they're out playing golf on an off day during the All-Star break, and they head on over to the Fenton Bar and Grill on Rudder Road in Fenton, just a couple of minutes away from the soccer park in Fenton. You try some of those trashed wings with that golden sauce that's being slathered on right now. It is absolutely ridiculously delicious, and you can't go wrong with anything that you order at the Fenton Bar and Grill. People love their breaded, spicy cheese curds as a starter. They have fantastic nachos there. If you want to get a salad, their chef salad with delicious ham and savory smoked turkey, fresh red onions, cool tomato, shredded cheddar, and croutons on greens. It's absolutely scintillating. And if you want just a burger that will knock your socks off, try the Fenton Burger over at the Fenton Bar and Grill. Everything there is delicious. Their staff is wonderful. Say hi to Megan and Jamie and the whole crew over there. You'll get a big kick out of them. They like sports. You'll be talking to people who love sports, and you'll just have a great time at the Fenton Bar and Grill. I love it, and you will too. Don't forget their happy hour specials, Monday through Friday, 2 to 5 p.m. So you go out, play golf between 2 and 5, stop by and have the mini tacos or the fried dill pickles, the breaded spicy cheese curds. I love the pretzel bites and the fried green beans. Everything is tantalizing at the Fenton Bar and Grill. It's the place to go. Learn more at FentonBarandGrill.com. And, oh, by the way, when you stop by, say hi to Chuck Nash. He is the 2024 Maitre d' of the Year in St. Louis, and tell him Randy sent you.
There we go, Randy. Now you pulled a fascinating piece of audio. Now it's not a short piece of audio.
Oh,
You pulled a fascinating piece of audio. Yes, because coming up here at 11, we're actually going to have a live hit down from our crew down in Atlanta, the STL Sports Central crew, Joe Roderick, Brendan Schaefer, and a new addition to our crew here at STL Sports Central, Hanna Barton, are actually down in Atlanta right now covering both the All-Star Game and SEC Media Days. Brendan Schaefer is going to join us tomorrow.
All right.
Kylie Hansen is going to join us on Thursday after she talks with Eli Drinkwitz for his presser. And today, Hanna Barton, who will be making her debut here on STL Sports Central coming up at 11, she went to South Carolina, is based out of the other Columbia, as I like to call it. And the Gamecocks had their big SEC Media Day yesterday. It's going to be a big season for them. So we're going to have her on live from STL Sports Central on at 11 to talk about SEC Media Days and the South Carolina Gamecocks, potentially one of the most dangerous games for the Missouri Tigers.
Yeah.
But that's coming up at 11 o'clock.
Yep. I found this really compelling before the Open in Scotland. And this is Scottie Scheffler, and it's a long answer, but it's great, talking about his competitiveness and how much golf means to him. Listen to Scottie Scheffler and don't stop listening because it's great stuff. Here you go.
I think it's kind of funny. I think, I think I said something after the Byron this year about, like, it feels like you work your whole life to celebrate winning a tournament for like a few minutes. It only lasts a few minutes, that kind of euphoric feeling. And to win the Byron Nelson Championship at home, I literally worked my entire life to become good at golf, to have an opportunity to win that tournament. And you win it, you celebrate, get to hug my family, my sister's there. It's such an amazing moment. And then it's like, okay, now what are we going to eat for dinner? Life goes on.
Good Lord.
Is it great to be able to win tournaments and to accomplish the things I have in the game of golf? Yeah. I mean, it brings tears to my eyes just to think about, because it's literally worked my entire life to become good at this sport, and to have that kind of sense of accomplishment, I think is a pretty cool feeling. To get to live out your dreams is very special. But at the end of the day, it's like, I'm not out here to inspire the next generation of golfers. I'm not here to inspire somebody else to be the best player in the world, because what's the point? This is not a fulfilling life. It's fulfilling from the sense of accomplishment, but it's not fulfilling from a sense of like the deepest, places of your heart. There's a lot of people that make it to what they thought was going to fulfill them in life, and then you get there and all of a sudden you get to number one in the world, and then they're like, what's the point? And I really do believe that, because what is the point? You're like, why do I want to win this tournament so bad? That's something that I wrestle with on a daily basis. It's like showing up at the Masters every year. It's like, why do I want to win this golf tournament so badly? Why do I want to win the Open Championship so badly? I don't know. Because if I win, it's going to be awesome for about 2 minutes. And then we're going to get to the next week, and it's going to be like, hey, you won 2 majors this year. How important is it for you to win the FedEx Cup playoffs? And it's just like, we're back here again, So we really do. We work so hard for such little moments. And, I'm kind of a sicko. I love putting in the work. I love being able to practice. I love getting out to live out my dreams. But at the end of the day, sometimes I just don't understand the point, because I don't know if I'm making any sense or not, but am I not? It's just one of those deals. I love the challenge. I love being able to play this game for a living. It's one of the greatest joys of my life. But does it fill the deepest wants and desires of my heart? Absolutely not. I mean, I love playing golf. I love being able to compete. I love living out my dreams. I love being a father. I love being able to take care of my son. I love being able to provide for my family out here playing golf. And, every day when I wake up early to go put in the work, my wife thanks me for going out and working so hard. And when I get home, I try and thank her every day for taking care of our son. It's just, that's why I talk about families being my priority, because it really is. I'm blessed to be able to come out here and play golf, but if my golf ever started affecting my home life, or it ever affected the relationship I have with my wife or with my son, that's going to be the last day that I play out here for a living. This is not
wow
end all. This is
wow. Isn't that compelling stuff? And
that's crazy.
He's one of the most thoughtful athletes that's out there, and obviously has put a lot of thought into this. And he's exactly right. It's okay. He's got the 2 minutes of glory. I wonder if there is a comp. Maybe there isn't, between he and Tiger in the way they approach things, because it does seem like Tiger lived for that win.
Yeah.
And well, Scottie, and he's the best right now. He's great. And he loves playing. He loves competing. But like he said, if it goes away because it's affecting his home life, so be it. It just seems like he's such a soulful individual.
I guess it's refreshing to have an athlete who talks like this, because, you know, we really, up until today, we've had two kinds of athletes where it's the, I've been dedicated to this since I was born. This is all I've wanted. This is my dreams. And then I feel like the only other athlete we've really had is the Charles Barkley. I played this sport because it paid for my lifestyle kind of way. Mm-hmm. And now all of a sudden we're getting a third one, apparently, where it's, I don't really enjoy this that much, but
I think he likes it. But it doesn't
soul. It doesn't fulfill his soul. I guess the thing is, like, I'm good at this. I like doing it, but it doesn't fulfill me.
And like he said, I'm a sicko. I like to practice. Yeah, he said that too.
He does say that. I guess I feel like we haven't heard a lot of athletes get this honest from this perspective. So I think it's a good thing. The chat's not really liking it. Samuel Howe says he's not a role model. Brian Ellison said maybe it's time to retire. Ellipsis 150. Why do I want to win this tournament? Gee, I don't know. The money. Mama says you can run for office. You can do a little bit more, and you can still play golf every day. It's interesting though that I don't know if we've ever seen a high level athlete whose response was, I didn't do this because I was passionate. I did this because I just like I'm good at this, and it was available, and it just happened to happen. Just everyone's either like a sociopath or a party guy, and just to be like, no, I'm just kind of out here, and this isn't what my life's all about. And if it cut into my family life, I would drop it immediately. That part I thought was that kind of honesty and that perspective. I just don't think we hear from sports. And I know Samuel House says, you know, he's not a role model, saying that. I don't. Well, I know he said he doesn't want to be a role model, but I actually think hearing different perspectives from athletes like that, humanizing that perspective, I think that's always good for people to see.
And I would say that,
especially young kids,
if you want your kids to look up to somebody and they're saying my family is my priority, I think that is a good role model. Maybe he's not a sports role model, but in life, I think that is a really strong role model, because that's what you want people to do, is put their family and their kids first ahead of what their vocation is. And here's a kid, I'm sure that he wasn't thinking when he was 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, becoming a great golfer and thinking about becoming the best golfer in the world. He wasn't thinking about having a family then and having that be the most important part of his life. But then he gets to be in his 20s and he's the best golfer in the world, and he's achieved that, but then discovers, okay, there's something more important than the golf. I think that's a really insightful and quality trait on the part of Scottie Scheffler.
I will say he said something I think we all want to say, because in today's day and age, I think we're getting into this grind set lifestyle that we live in. People have gotten to the point where it's a bad thing if your job isn't your end all be all. People treat that like you're not dedicated if your job isn't your end all be all. If your job isn't the one thing that gives you purpose, pride, meaning, then that's a problem. And it's different for athletes, I understand, because they play a game, I guess, and some people can look at it differently. But I think for any adult to say my job and the thing that makes me money isn't the thing that fulfills me the most, I think that's an extremely healthy way to look at things right now, because I think there's a lot of people pushing you to only be driven by the way that you make money. And I think family's obviously a great other thing to push it towards, to push your focus towards. And I like that from Scottie Scheffler. Well, I think anytime you're getting a different perspective, it's important.
I am of the opinion, and I learned this too late, and I still, this is an American thing. We work too hard. We give our superiors, we give the man too much. And I should have used a lot of vacation over the years that I wound up not using, because I didn't want to leave the job. And whether it was insecurity or whether it was just I like the job, whatever it was, I did not do enough relaxing during the course of my career. And I'm totally defined by my career. There's no doubt about it. But now with 2020 hindsight, I wish that I would have used what the man was providing me in terms of vacations and being able to take time off. I've got a young friend that I work with at the TV station. Every July, he just takes the month of July off. He gets 5 weeks. Yeah, he's been gone since the 1st of July. He's going to be gone till it's awesome.
He just pieces out for an entire month.
28 28 years old.
Oh
Yeah,
my
he goes to
God.
Florida, goes to South Carolina. He uses his vacation, and I think that's a smart thing. And I don't know if there was a year, Matthew, that I ever worked where I did not have vacation left at the end of the year. Every single year that I've worked, and this has been since 1983 now, if I'm not mistaken, I have had my vacation roll over because I didn't use all that was allotted to me.
So you had to give some people, a young person, advice: take your vacation days.
So yeah, and
I like that.
This is
good for you.
So
Randy.
to Scottie Scheffler's point, there are more important things, and golf for him, well, it's fun. Like he said, he's a sicko and he likes it, but it's also a job. And he's learned that it's not the be all and end all.
There we go. I like that you brought that up because, again, you might not agree with it, but I like that we're hearing something different because there's multiple lines in there that I don't know if we've ever heard from an athlete. We certainly haven't heard from an athlete, I think, in the last 10 years or so.
You mama says, I pretty much take every Friday off for 10 months out of the year. That's great. That I wish that, and you know what now going back, our old boss, great guy, John Kiowski, yeah, he let us go, but still, he's a great guy. I love him.
Yeah, I love him.
He's
Love
my
John.
guy. But we asked him one time if we could do a 4-day work week, and we should have taken him up on this. Remember what he said?
You really should have. Yeah.
We were starting at 7. He said, yeah, but I want you to start at 6 a.m. every day. If we could have done Monday through Thursday, 6 to 10,
we really should have taken him up on that.
We should have taken him up on that. But it is what it is. We wanted to sleep in until 5:30 or whatever.
I'm an absolute baby when it comes to getting sleep. So
you mama, congratulations. You take advantage of it. This could be Ben. I do work from home, so I can work anywhere. That's cool. One thing that's happened since the pandemic that I see in being a golfer is that when you get out on a golf course at 3:00 on a Friday, it's a lot more crowded than it was before the pandemic when people were working in the office.
Good.
Yeah, that's what it should be.
I like remote work. I like people taking their PTOs. But the thing here is STL Sports Central. We like when you take off work, but we also like when we do little special trips for work. And we were just previewing a few minutes ago, we got a little special trip going for STL Sports Central right now. We got multiple people down in Atlanta who are covering the MLB All-Star Game, but also SEC Media Days. And actually, we're going to bring in one of our reporters down in Atlanta right now. And this is actually her debut on STL Sports Central. Hanna Barton of STL Sports Central joins us live from SEC Media Days down in Atlanta. Hanna, you're on with Randy Karraker and Matthew Rocchio. How are you doing today?
I'm great, guys. Thanks for having me. Happy to make my debut.
Happy to have you here. And tell us a little about you. We're going to be talking about the South Carolina Gamecocks. I know you have a close relationship with that football program. So tell us a little bit about you, where you went to school, and what you're doing here on STL Sports Central.
Love to. So went to South Carolina for 4 years, had the privilege of swimming there, representing the Gamecocks. And so being a student athlete, obviously got to have a lot of close relationships within the athletic department, became a diehard Gamecock football fan from the day I committed. So I've been able to follow that team and love the SEC, love everything about it. And so everyone at STL Sports is starting to see what all the SEC hype is about. And so we're kind of branching off into the SEC and super happy to be a part of it and obviously give my input on the South Carolina Gamecocks, being a diehard fan of that team.
Well, before we dive into football, I do have to ask, what was the stroke? What was your event as a swimmer?
So I was a butterflyer, but only sprint and freestyle. So don't ask me to do anything other than that. It's not pretty. You would be surprised that I even made it on my high school team. So. And
are you still a swimmer? Do you swim recreationally, Hanna?
I do. I try and I'm getting back into it. Try to do it maybe once a week or so. But now that I have the chance to not smell like chlorine 24/7, I'm taking full advantage of it.
Okay, well, let's start with this because, as you know, we're here in St. Louis. It is, after all, STL Sports Central. Was Mizzou really a tackle away from beating South Carolina down there last year? Just make a tackle. Make a tackle.
If that makes you guys happy, that's what you could tell yourselves. But we all watched the game. We all know what happened, and we know the end result, and I'm pretty pleased with it.
Hey, give us a lay of the land down there in Atlanta for SEC Media Days.
Yeah, so as you can see, tons of people walking behind me. So we're set up on the second floor of the College Football Hall of Fame. So it's actually pretty crazy because we've got exhibits from the College Football Hall of Fame that are all around us. Like you walk a couple feet that way, Deion Sanders jerseys hanging up, like all sorts of memorabilia, different exhibits are up here. But then down on the first floor is this giant turf field set up like a football field, obviously. On one end, we've got the main press stage where Commissioner Sankey of the SEC started things off yesterday, and then coaches will come through and give their big remarks and, be very diplomatic and say what everybody wants to say. And then they open it up for questions, media ask questions, and then the players are actually set up in the corners a few minutes after coaches come off, and the 3 representatives from each team, the players that were selected, they're down there. So press have the chance to ask questions. But then, you've got the SEC Network and ESPN and everybody set up down there as well doing shows. And then people up here on the second floor, what we're calling Digital Drive, are able to kind of walk through and book some of these players. So players and coaches will just walk by. Maybe, lucky enough, we might see someone behind me. I don't know. But that's kind of the general setup down here. We're on day 2. Unfortunately, Mizzou not until day 4. So we're obviously anxiously awaiting that as well.
The big thing at SC Media Days for years was always the crowd that would gather to watch when Nick Saban would arrive and eventually speak. So do we have an early favorite on who the most watched coach presser will be at this year's edition of SEC Media Days?
So my favorite coming in, I thought Lane Kiffin was going to have a decent crowd because you just never know what he's going to say. But they have a pretty good job of having like the main press stage spread out in terms of chairs and everything. Now the corners where the athletes are set is a little bit more tight quarters. So Diego Pavia, Vanderbilt quarterback, actually had the biggest crowd yesterday. Now Arch Manning will be here for Texas this afternoon. So I have a feeling he's going to take that title from him. But yeah, Lane Kiffin had a decent crowd. Obviously, I think Kalen DeBoer is going to have a pretty good crowd as well. Kirby Smart had a decent amount, obviously being in Georgia. And who knows, maybe Drink will have a good crowd as well.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
And Kirby Smart, I loved his answer when somebody talked to him about the possibility of Nick Saban coming back. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, everyone here, that's been the buzz is what's Saban going to do? I was hoping he would maybe be wandering the halls here today, stuff he does with ESPN, College Game Day, but he hasn't made an appearance, unfortunately. But yeah, it's talk of the town.
One of the talk of the SEC is the school that you're close to, the South Carolina Gamecocks. Obviously, Shane Beamer and company spoke yesterday. A lot of the offseason talk has been about the quarterback, Lenora Sellers. Guys getting an offensive coordinator in there with a big name in Shula to work with him there. So a lot of pub. We got a lot of Mizzou fans, obviously, on STL Sports Central. So give a rundown of kind of the expectations and why this seems to be kind of like the final chance for Shane Beamer to take the South Carolina Gamecocks over the hump.
Well, you kind of saw the sparks of it last season, especially in the second half. Lenora Sellers being the redshirt freshman, he sat his true freshman year because Spencer Rattler was here for 2 seasons, and that was kind of, I think, the first shift for the South Carolina offense, because I remember my sophomore year, we didn't have a quarterback. We had a grad assistant that had some eligibility remaining that had to come in and play. Like, we had probably everybody in the state of South Carolina playing quarterback at one point. So when Spencer Rattler came in, that was kind of the big shift of, okay, we have someone here consistent for 2 years. Lenoris was able to learn from him 2 seasons ago. And then last year during that second half, that was when Sellers, his athleticism was really on display. You would literally think that someone is conducting magic tricks down there on the field whenever he is maneuvering out of the pocket, because his ability to escape tackles is like I'm impressed. I know I'm biased, but it's pretty impressive to see. And so obviously then they had that really strong defense as well last season, losing some guys on the defense to the draft, of course, but they've got a great defensive coordinator. And I think you're going to continue to see, he's shown that he can develop the defense, because some of these guys that we're talking about from last season that we lost, the Boogie Huntleys, the Tonka Hemingways, the Demetrius Knights, the TJ Sanders, were all guys that were able to develop at South Carolina. And so I've got some confidence that they're going to be able to do that as well.
Hey, Hanna, we have a ton of respect for what Sellers does. Obviously, Nussmeier's great at LSU. Machir has a chance to be great at Oklahoma. But you mentioned Arch Manning earlier and the crowd that he'll draw. Is there any way you think that Arch Manning can live up to the hype that he's getting?
You know, we were able to talk to a couple of Texas people earlier today, and I think what is going to really benefit Arch is he's got a great system around him. You know, I think that's one thing that is kind of being overlooked a little bit is like, it's not like this guy's coming in expected to completely transform a program. I mean, Texas proved last year that they were a good program and they have what they need on the offensive side. And I mean, their defense, I think, is something that's not being talked enough about because they had one of the best defenses in the nation last season, and you're going to see a ton of promise, especially in their linebacker room as well. And so I think, will Arch Manning live up to the hype? I don't think he can ever live up to those types of expectations. Someone's always going to be disappointed. Fans are always going to have something to complain about. But do I think the Texas offense is going to have success with Arch as the quarterback? Yes, I do.
And do you think they're going to successfully be able to maintain the crowd around Arch Manning? Because like you said, he's probably going to be big today. They've been doing a good job with the coaches, but I have a feeling it's going to be an absolute madhouse when he hits the stage.
I mean, we had a couple news stations yesterday pulling up chairs to stand on them to get a good view. I think you're going to see people standing on chairs, tables, probably bringing their own step stools just to be able to find a way to get like some sort of shot of him today. But it's definitely going to be interesting. I'm excited to see what the setup is going to be, and of course we'll try and snap a few pictures so fans can see what's going on down here in Atlanta.
Joe Roderick's a good lead blocker. Just get Joe to lower his shoulder, put the crown of his helmet in some people's chests, and just move him out the way, clear a spot so that STL Sports Central is getting a good shot.
I'll let him know that's his job today.
Hanna, we have the official STL Sports Central ladder. I would hope that they brought the step ladder with them down to Atlanta.
You know, I think even if they did, it probably wouldn't have made it outside of the St. Louis airport. So
nothing else did.
Unfortunately, we don't have that down here.
Yeah, you were just coming over from South Carolina. Like, guys, I'm not sure what everyone's complaining about. It seemed like a pretty easy trip.
It was a nice drive. I was ready to go. I'm like, what do you mean? An airport line? Come on. And then I didn't think it was that bad. And then I see the line, and yeah, I'm just glad they made it here.
Well, Hanna, thank you so much for joining us today. Obviously, we will be tied into STL Sports Central. You guys are recording a lot of special stuff, a lot of interviews, a lot of different pieces of content down in Atlanta that we'll then be releasing on the YouTube page over the next few weeks after you guys get back in town. So thank you so much for joining us today, and have fun trying to get a spot for the Arch Manning presser.
And welcome to the team.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Super excited to see what we can tackle in the SEC, but y'all have a good day.
And are you going to be in the other Columbia Mo for the South Carolina game later in the year?
I think we're going to have to make that happen for sure. For sure.
Okay. Sounds great. Thanks, Hanna. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too. Bye.
She is the newest member of STL Sports Central. Hanna Barton will be covering the SEC and specifically South Carolina. She's great.
Yeah, you guys thought we were just going to stay with STL. Sorry, we got to do a little branching out with the Mizzou football season, with the SEC season that it's going to be this year. I mean, it's going to be intense. The fact that you have a school like South Carolina that's kind of on the rise. Is Alabama struggling under Kalen DeBoer? You know, is there a little bit of a change in the guard? Tennessee's back. Kind of feels like the late '90s all over again. Auburn.
They need a quarterback though. Tennessee does.
Yeah. He left a.
Yeah.
And you got Auburn not being what they used to be. So a lot of things are changing in the SEC. It's going to be a lot of fun. And again, that's just the first of, I think, 3 or 4 hits this week from SEC Media Days. Brendan Schaefer, who's down there covering baseball and SEC. You know he loves to talk about Mizzou. We'll have him on tomorrow to talk about the All-Star game. We'll have him on to talk about Mizzou because I think actually Brendan Schaefer is going to want us to change that. The way you had to ask Hanna the question is, will you be attending the Mizzou SEC South Carolina game in the Superior Columbia? That's the actual way to phrase that question. So Brendan Schaefer will be back on tomorrow, I think, to give us some Mizzou news, and then obviously Mizzou not talking until Thursday. So on Thursday, STL Sports Central's Kylie Hansen will be joining us to talk about the Missouri Tigers and Eli Drinkwitz live from SEC Media Days. And of course, stay tuned to STL Sports Central. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, because not only do we have this show coming out not every day, not only do we have post-game shows after every STL event, but also we're going to be bringing you all this content from SEC Media Days and the MLB All-Star Game all over STL Sports Central.
All right. And we will have, obviously, Card Central 365 coming back on Friday when the Cardinals open up their series against the Arizona Diamondbacks. The All-Star Game tonight in Atlanta, where everything else is going on. Who do you like? The National League lineup is Ohtani, Acuna, Marte, Freddie Freeman, Machado, and Will Smith. Kyle Tucker hitting 7th, Lindor hitting 8th, and Pete Crow Armstrong hitting 9th against Tarek Skubal to get things started. The American League starting lineup is Gleyber Torres, Riley Green and Aaron Judge, Cal Raleigh, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Ryan O'Hearn, Caminero, Javi Baez, and Jacob Wilson going against Paul Skeens. By the way, how about having Baez, who at one point in his career was an absolute strikeout machine, going against Jacob Wilson, who I don't think he has struck out all year.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the National League this time.
I think that's a good call.
I really like the National League. There's some absolute boppers in there, and I enjoy rooting against Javi Baez.
Why? What's wrong with him? What did he do to you besides play for the Cubs?
Do I need another reason?
No, that's a good one.
There you go.
Well, I think he's maybe the best redemption story in baseball.
He is. It is incredible that he has restored his game, because I mean, he had completely fallen off a cliff. Part of that secondary group, I guess you could say, of young young Cubs who were supposed to come up after the Chris Bryant, like, you know, Starlin Castro, Javi Baez, like they were supposed to be like kind of a second run of talent that was supposed to hit and kind of bridge the gap there. And he completely fell off a cliff. And anytime a guy with that kind of attitude falls off a cliff, it's going to be they love to hate you kind of thing. And that was 100% with Javi. And I'm sad to say that I fell into that.
Okay. By the way, Jacob Wilson this year, 366 plate appearances, and he has struck out 28 times.
You know what's crazy to me is that his walk count isn't higher.
No, he only swings the bat.
He's got
20 walks.
Only swings the bat, only 20 walks. Because when you say that, I'm like, oh yeah, he's got to be. I know he's only sitting at like 30 strikeouts. Is he at like 50 walks? And yeah, still less walks than strikeouts. I feel like Tony La Russa could have a word with him or two.
Maybe there's nothing wrong with swinging the bat, though.
No, nothing wrong with swinging the bat.
He's hitting 332, 375 on base, 462 slug, and he's got an 837 OPS. Jack Wilson is his dad, the former Cardinal farmhand who was traded to the Pirates, was an all-star with the Pirates. So Jacob Wilson, who attended GCU down in the Phoenix area, is off to a great start in his major league career. I wonder if his numbers are going to stay the same, because he's hitting a lot of 100-mile-an-hour fastballs here, and obviously swinging at a lot of them. He must have the best bat-to-ball skills in baseball, right, to be able to do what he's doing. Strike out only 28 times.
Is it him or Arise?
Let's see. Arise has been great over the years. One of those two, probably.
I can't imagine, unless there's somebody we're completely blanking out on that just is. I can't imagine there's anybody else in baseball who has.
Arise has only struck out 11 times
and has 18 walks
in 393 plate appearances.
It's so insane. I can't. Yeah. Those numbers. I know that even Tony Gwynn would be like that. Still 11 times, but still in today's day and age, that is just.
Last year for Arise, 524 plate appearances, 18 strikeouts.
And here's the thing about him: he in the season with Miami, he had 574 at bats. He batted 40 points higher, 354. But he struck out 34 times as opposed to the 18 last year. Yeah. It's incredible to me that a guy who has that season in Miami can actually, like, he's seeing the ball better than he was when he was younger. He had 48 strikeouts in 500 at-bats in his age 24-year season with the Minnesota Twins. A guy like that seeing the ball better across the last 4 years, that's that kind of growth. I love seeing that. And in fact, wow, he was getting all-star votes in Minnesota, and he's not getting them in San Diego.
Huh.
I wonder if it's just because of the shortstops in the or I guess maybe the position people in the position group in the National League. Yeah. How is he not getting all-star?
And you know what, though? There's a lot of the numbers people that don't like him.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
They don't like the fact that a guy just hits for a high average and gets on base. And he's kind of a one-tool player. When you talk about hit for power, doesn't do that. Run, doesn't do that. Doesn't field, doesn't throw. he's a one. He is. I'll admit this, that he's a one-tool player, but that's a pretty darn good tool to have when you can hit.
Yeah, when it's baseball, it seems like if your one tool is I get on base, and because I swing the bat a lot, I feel like it's a pretty good tool to have.
Yeah,
it's like this running back. All he does is get yards.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You're like, oh no,
well,
what are we gonna do?
And I guarantee you that Mike Schilt loves a rise, even though he's only got the one tool. If you look at the Padres as a team, he kind of reflects what Mike Schilt wants there. They let me go back to the top. I'll bet you that they're leading baseball in the fewest strikeouts.
Wouldn't surprise me at all.
I will get that statistic for you right now. Strikeouts.
I was looking at statistics the other day. Mike Schilt's still pretty high in the all-time Cardinals manager winning statistics.
Yeah. Fewest strikeouts in the National League for the Padres. They have struck out only 676 times. Second in the National League, 730 for the Nationals. The Blue Jays have struck out the fewest times in baseball. Royals second fewest. So Mike Schilt's Padres are number one in the National League in terms of fewest strikeouts and in terms of walks. Let me get to the Padres here. They are. Oh, see, the Royals have some of the fewest strikeouts, but also the fewest walks in Major League Baseball. Most walks, Padres are not up there. Most walks in baseball belong to the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Okay, so sometimes I just like to do these things where it's like when you see stats, how should you process them? When you see a team is both low in strikeouts and low in walks, am I crazy that my thought process there is there's something in that team's hitting philosophy that's all about first pitch strikes?
Yep, probably.
And jumping pitches early, because if you're not striking out and you're not walking, you're just not seeing a lot of pitches.
Either that, or you have just unbelievable bat-to-ball skills.
That too, but I mean,
the Royals do not.
But the Royals don't. So I'm saying is I love when little things like that, because I'm like, I now really want to like text Vahe Gregorian and be like, hey, is there like a crazy first like hit the first pitch philosophy coming out of the Kansas City hitting coach right now? Because those numbers fascinate me.
I am amazed.
Really weird sports nerd thing.
I want to give you a couple of little tidbits. As you know, Matthew, and if you aren't aware of it, when the football Cardinals left St. Louis, I became a Washington Redskins fan for a while before we got the Rams. And I can't believe this. And I'm glad that Josh Harris, their new owner, is doing this. They have not retired Art Monk's number 81. It took Art Monk a ridiculous amount of time to get into the Hall of Fame. First guy to have 100 catches in an NFL season. Was a spectacular wide receiver. He wasn't fast, but he was a great receiver for a long time. And Art Monk finally is going to have his number retired by the Washington Commanders and their owner, Josh Harris.
How did anyone from that 90s run like slip the net? I guess is my question. Like, I feel like, wait, they've only retired 5 numbers? They haven't retired a single Hog?
Nope.
That's a travesty.
Well, and the other part of that team that went to 3 Super Bowls and actually went to won 3 Super Bowls, and they went to 4. They lost to the Raiders. They beat Miami in the 82 season.
Mm-hmm.
They beat the Broncos in the 87 season, and they beat the Bills in the 91 season. 91. So Gibbs took them to 4. They won 3. Riggins is in the Hall of Fame. Monk is finally in the Hall of Fame. I don't think Manley or Mann are in. Darryl Green's in.
Not Russ Grimm. Was he one of the Hogs?
Grimm might have made the Hall.
Russ Grimm's one of the Hogs, and then
no Joe Jacoby, no Jim Lachey, no Jeff Bostic.
Joe Jacoby's a Hall of Famer, isn't he?
He should be in the Hall of Fame. Yeah,
Russ Grimm is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, Hanny always said that he should have been.
Yeah, that's okay. So the only retired numbers by the Washington franchise are Darryl Green, Sammy Baugh, Bobby Mitchell, Sean Taylor, and Sonny Jurgensen.
Isn't that wild?
So that means wait? So none of the players from their Super Bowl runs are retired?
Are retired? No. So
that seems
it
broken.
Was, May or Jacoby, Grimm, Bostic, Raleigh McKenzie. Lachey played left tackle. Jacoby played a little left tackle. Jacoby should definitely be in the Hall of Fame.
You at least should.
You had 3. You had the first Super Bowl. It was Riggins. The second one, it was Timmy Smith, ran for 205 yards against the Broncos. The third one, the second one. Let's see. Second Super Bowl, you still had Riggins. Third Super Bowl, the Broncos one was Timmy Smith. And then you had Biner and that gang in there for the fourth Super Bowl. Defensively, it was Man and Manley, Dave Butts, who should probably be in the Hall of Fame. Up front, you had Greg Minuski. You had Wilbur Marshall in the last one. Green was a constant, Darryl Green. You had Todd Bowles. He was in that group. Alvin Walton was in that group in the mid-'80s. Maybe Mark Mosley, the kicker. It's interesting for a team as successful as it was, franchise that was as successful as it was for a decade, basically 81 to 91. It is amazing that you only have a couple of Hall of Famers out of there.
That is
Grimm in? Did you check?
Russ Grimm is in the Hall of Fame.
Okay, so Grimm, Riggins, and Green are really the only three.
So Green won 2 with them. He won 2 of them with him. Okay. But he's the only one to win the Super Bowls who's got his number retired.
Isn't that something?
Because Jurgensen was before. Ball and Bobby Mitchell obviously were way before. So Green's the only of the 5 retired numbers that win one of their 4 Super Bowls. He won 2 of them. Mm-hmm. How do you not just put the Hogs in as a collective group?
Right.
Like that seems
that was
like
a Dan Snyder thing, I think.
Yeah. Well, then he's gone. Joe Jacoby started 16 games 4 times for you across a 12-year span.
91.
Started all 11 games. 91. Yeah, he started all 16 games in 91 after only playing 6 the year before. He would get injured, but he started almost every game he played. He played 170 games for that franchise, started 148 for them, and a 17-game average of 17 games, 15 starts. Joe Jacoby deserves to have his 66 retired 100%. 68 should be retired for Russ Grimm. This is unbelievable.
Yeah. By the way, this is what makes Joe Gibbs the best coach of the modern era, because he won the Super Bowl in 1982 with Joe Theismann as his quarterback. He won the Super Bowl with Doug Williams as his quarterback in 1987. And then he won the Super Bowl in 91 with Mark Rippon. 3 different Super Bowl championships with 3 different non-Hall of Fame quarterbacks. That's just one of the things that made him great. But he was a guy who played to the level or to the talent that was afforded him. He didn't try to plug guys into a system. He adapted the system to the talents of his players.
They do a Ring of Fame, which
is Gary Clark, Ricky Sanders, Clint Didier.
This has a much more representative group of Washington stars. Doug Williams, Joe Theismann, Charlie
Theismann before he went to Notre Dame, and then he tried to win the Heisman.
Yeah,
and they changed it to Theismann when he was a candidate for the Heisman.
What did his mama say her name was after she got married? Theismann.
Theismann.
Mama called him Theismann. I'm gonna call him Theismann.
Okay.
Yeah. So all these players that we're talking about are in their Ring of Fame. Although, hold on a moment. George Allen's there. Okay, Joe Gibbs is there. I just had to make sure that wasn't. I had to make sure I wasn't about to fly off the handle. Still, Ring of Honor is one thing. That's fine. I say start retiring some of these players' numbers, because when I think of the Redskins, I was born in 1991, so I was literally born in July. So I was born 7 months before this era ends, and yet I'm sitting here 33 years later, and I'm annoyed that Joe Jacoby, Russ Grimm, Art Monk. It took this long to get their flowers. So if I feel this way as the football nerd I am, I can't imagine how people who actually stood in RFK as the stadium literally rocked feel, as none of these guys are getting their numbers retired. So you finally have good ownership. You're on the way. Continue on this path. 81 goes down in week 9 this year. Let's follow it up next year with a little 68 and 66.
I like that idea a lot. Okay.
And also they're honoring the old school Redskins with their alternate jersey this year.
Nice,
a little bit the white throwbacks for the Redskins, and they look gorgeous.
Yeah. One quick George Allen story for you. When the Cardinals were in their last year, I think I told this with Bernie last week, but they had a rotating cast of analysts. Terry Steve, the former football Cardinal, was one of those. Mike Shannon was one of those, and the former Redskins coach George Allen was one of the rotating cast. We go in, I'm producing the games. We go into San Diego in 1987, and the football Cardinals get down at halftime by a score of 28-0. Neil Lomax hits Roy Green in the third quarter, 28-7. Jim Gallery hits a field goal in the third, 28-10. Neil Lomax hits Jay Novacek in the fourth quarter, 28-17. He hits stump Mitchell, Lomax does, to make it 28-24 in the fourth. The Cardinals are driving for the winning touchdown. They're at like the 7-yard line. Lomax hits Earl Farrell in his hands, and Farrell drops the pass. George Allen, the analyst, is in a chair like this, leans back and goes, Jesus Christ. As Bill Wilkerson, Farrell drops the ball. Jesus Christ, from George Allen. It was like some of the best analysis you'll ever hear.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And they lost the game. Would have been the greatest comeback from a halftime deficit in the history of the league, 28-0. And they should have won the game 31-24, but the drop by Earl Farrell caused them to lose that game in San Diego.
If somebody can find, I wish, God, I wish that was clipped off somewhere and lived forever, because I just want to hear Jesus Christ over and over again from a very exasperated George Allen. That's hilarious.
It was great.
There's nothing better than very vocal old school coaches commenting on games in the moment, because they get so mad about the littlest things. How could you not catch the ball? How what happened to the sport I love that this player's not catching the ball in their in this moment? I love old coaches. They're the best.
By the way, this was quintessential football Cardinals, because they got behind by so much. Neil Lomax that day, 32 of 61 for 457, 3 touchdowns. He was sacked 5 times, though. And let me just find Roy for you. Roy receiving. Oh, by the way, Dan Fouts was still playing for the Chargers.
There's nothing better than 1980s NFL football and earlier than randomly finding games in seasons where guys had 2,000 yards passing, where a player would throw for 490 passing yards.
Yeah.
They're the funniest games in the world, and inevitably it's because the Cowboys were up 21-0 in the first quarter, and you're just chasing the entire game. But it's always hilarious, because I have to wonder, the offensive coordinator at the time, he had never in his life ever called that offensive game plan before. Like, you're talking about offensive coordinators who their entire life had never called 60 passing plays. Now they're in the NFL on national television, and they're calling their 60th passing play. I wonder what their thought process, what's going on through their head right now in that moment of like, what the hell am I doing?
By the way, that day, Roy Green, Hall of Fame talent, 7 for 139. Novacek, who wound up with the Cowboys, of course, 7 for 101. And JT Smith, 6 for 92. Let me give you one more Neil day, because I'm just going down memory lane here. It's fun. 1984, the final game of the season. We all remember it. Cardinals win that game. They would have still been here. You'd still have an NFL team. And in that game against the Washington Redskins, at the end of the year, the Cardinals wound up losing by a score of 29-27. They were down at halftime in that game, too. Score at halftime was Washington 23, Cardinals 7. Cardinals cut the lead to 23-10, and then 23-17, then 26-17. But Neil had another outrageous day that day, 37 of 46 for 468 and a couple of scores.
Can I ask why? Because it seems like the Redskins also kind of ripped out the Cardinals' hearts a little bit. Why,
all the time.
Then why, considering your hatred of the Cowboys, why were the Redskins a team that you weren't angry at post St. Louis Cardinals?
Great,
because you just listed to getting your heart ripped out by them, getting trampled by them early in the game and having to come back and failing to, but yet you went to be a Redskins fan after the Cardinals.
And as a young man, I hated George Allen with a passion.
Okay, then.
But here is the answer.
All right.
When the football Cardinals were here, Joe Gibbs was the running backs coach. Wayne Sevier was on that staff as a special teams coach. Jim Hannafin was the offensive line coach. Emmett Thomas was on Don Coryell's staff here. Pretty much the same staff that coached the football Cardinals here was on the Redskins staff under Joe Gibbs there. So after the Cardinals leave that 87 season, me and my dad go to the Super Bowl in San Diego. Washington, that was the Timmy Smith game. Washington clobbers the Broncos. Doug Williams throws the 5 touchdown passes in the second quarter, and I think it was 42-10 was the final.
The only time that the phrase "you could drive a Mack truck through that hole" was actually factually correct.
Yeah, and so their fans had so much fun. And Bill Parcells always said, if you're hearing that "Hail to the Redskins" song a lot, you're having a bad day and as an opposing coach. And Dan Reeves heard that song a lot that day. Hail victory. So their fans had a lot of fun, and their coaching staff was from here, and I adored the late great Jim Hanna. He became kind of a mentor to me. He was really, really good to me from the time he was here as the Cardinals coach. Then he moved to Atlanta and was there for a while, and then Washington. And so I became when I was a fan, I would call Hanny, and he would always take care of me with tickets. That 91 team, one of the three best teams in the history of the league. Three best teams in the history of the league for one season are the 99 Rams, the 91 Redskins, and the 85 Bears. And I would call Hanny during the week and say, hey, can I get a couple of tickets for the game in Houston or whatever? Yeah, I'll leave him. We'll call. So I probably went to 10 of their games that year, whether in Washington or on the road, just because Hanny was there and always took care of me. He was the best.
Last thing on the show for today. Can you give me the abridged version? Because I feel like I want to do a full video of this.
Okay.
The abridged version of why, if the Cardinals win the game you were just talking about, they never leave St. Louis.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Because I think that's a fascinating story, and I kind of want to do like a long form video, but just the abridged version.
It was after that 1984 season. And Jim Hanifin, to the day he died, believed that if the Cardinals would have made the playoffs that year, that they would have won the Super Bowl. They were really good. He had the Bears number. He had Walsh's number in 1984. So he thought if they got into the playoffs, they would have won. It was after the 84 season that Bill Bidwell asked for a football-only stadium in St. Louis. Before that, there had been rumblings, but he had never publicly asked for a stadium. And if one of several plays would have occurred, Neil Donahue magically would have hit the field goal against Washington. I've told you before about a phantom pass interference call, offensive pass interference call against Roy Green that cost the Cardinals a win against the Cowboys. Everson Walls went up to Roy after the game and apologized. So if the Cardinals win either of those games, they win the division and go to the playoffs. If they go to the playoffs, there is a lot more excitement about the Cardinals because they went to the playoffs in 1974 and 75, went again in 1982 in a strike season, so it didn't really matter. And then they go 8-7-1, 9-7. If they would have won one more game in 1984, they would have gone to the playoffs, and the excitement in this town over Cardinals football would have been through the roof. And the people that were the powers that be, Civic Progress, the corporate people, they would have had to reflect the excitement that the public was showing at that point. Because the Cardinals didn't, and they didn't like Bidwell, they never did really engage in building him a football-only stadium in town. If he would have gotten his stadium here in town, the Cardinals would have stayed here forever. As a matter of fact, when John Ashcroft signed financing for what is now our dome here in St. Louis, Bill Bidwell got a phone call from Jim Holder over at KMOX. I was there, and Jim said, asked him what he thought of Governor Ashcroft signing the legislation that would provide funding for a dome stadium in St. Louis. One of the all-time great lines, and I don't know if he thought of it ahead of time, but when Jim Holder asked Mr. Bidwell, what do you think of this? Bidwell said, well, if this would have happened 4 years ago, this would be a local call.
That's nuts.
Yeah, because the Cardinals would have stayed. Mr. Bidwell, to the day he died, he would come back here 3-4 times a year just to have lunch over at Crown Candy. He loved St. Louis. He didn't want to leave. His family didn't want to leave. Michael Bidwell didn't want to leave. Michael still has a great affinity for St. Louis and does great things behind the scenes for St. Louis. So it's a shame, and it would have been so easy to keep that team. We screwed up 4 or 5 times in trying to have the NFL. That was the first time when we were given we were given an expansion team by the NFL in 1993. They said, hey, all you have to do, we know you're building the Dome Stadium, just stay out of court. Jerry Clinton owned the lease. Make sure that the people who are going to own the team own the lease. They gave St. Louis 30 days, said, straighten your situation out, you get the team. We got 30 days, and we didn't straighten the situation out. We didn't get a team. Then James Bush Orthwine buys the Patriots, and he was going to move the Patriots here. That was a fait accompli. And Robert Kraft, unfortunately, owned the stadium with a lease. And Robert Kraft said, no, I'm not letting you out of your lease. I'm going to hold you to that lease for as long as it is. And it was several years. James Bush Orthwine, member of the Anheuser-Busch family, said, okay, fine. and sold the team to Kraft. So that was another time. And then obviously, once the Rams came, we had the team for 21 years. We definitely could have held them. And Dan Deerdorf told us, Dan Deerdorf was in charge of the Convention and Visitors Commission in like 2005. And even then he was saying, hey, we better start thinking about building a new stadium.
Which is the last time you could have gotten that discussion going, because it's the last time the team is competitive.
And
relevant,
Georgia had not died yet.
And she had not died yet. That's a great point.
And so Dan had that foresight, but we didn't start then. And then obviously when by the time Kroenke announced that he was keeping control of the team, opening day of the baseball season, 2010, I'll never forget it. By the time that happened, there was no way that the team was going to stay here. The team was as good as gone in April of 2010.
And you just need to find a way to figure out a time machine, take it back to April 2010. I would be going right into Columbia, Missouri, right there on 5th and Turner. Mm-hmm. And I need to, April 2010, I would have been in my, finishing up my freshman year at Mizzou. So I would have been,
so you had access.
I would have been in my Mark Twain dorm up on the 5th floor. I need to take a time machine back to that day. And I need to shake that poor child and be like, I know you love football, but you got to pivot to a different sport a little bit earlier. You're going to get into basketball really big in the next year or two, and you're going to start covering Mizzou basketball, and it's going to take you to a new level of basketball height, but you're always going to focus on football. Pivot harder. Pivot so hard to basketball, my friend. But I can't do that.
There
blissful little idiot.
If I had the time machine, there are two places I would go. Number one, I would go back to that 1984 time.
You do that too.
And I would I'll tell you another quick story.
You're using your time machine much smarter than I am.
So I would go back and I would try to get in touch with the people at Civic Progress and say, look, if you lose this team, you might get another team, but you're never going to have anything like the Cardinals, because that was our team.
You're starting a 40-year roll down the hill.
Yeah, it was a foundational thing. It was, people still like the Cardinals, even though the Rams won a Super Bowl here. People still like the Cardinals better. And the other one that I think I would have had better success with is talking some sense into Jerry Clinton in '93 when the Stallions were going to be our team. So after
it would have been purple.
Go, you purple Stallions. So after the Stallions left, Jim Holder and I get on a plane and from Chicago, where the Jaguars have been awarded to Jacksonville. And I said, man, the only way we're ever going to get a team is to get the Rams, because the Rams were having major lease problems and LA wasn't going to build them a stadium. So I went to the library, and I didn't go to the library much in my life, but I went to the library and I made copies, and I researched every single move or potential move of a team. Like at that time, Jacksonville was pursuing the Houston Oilers, but I looked at the Raiders moves and I looked at some of the other moves that had occurred, and there hadn't been many, but so I put together, okay, here is how you can get a team. Here's how you can get the Rams. And I sent it to Stan Kroenke at his place. I sent it to, I think, each of the aldermen in St. Louis. I sent it to every member of Civic Progress, and it got into the hands. Have you ever heard the name of Al Kurth? Al Kurth was like one of the great champions of St. Louis. He might have been the greatest champion we ever had. Tragically committed suicide about 25 years ago. But anyway,
on September 11th, 2002.
Yeah, how about that?
Oh my God.
Yeah, great St. Louisan, just spectacular.
He was one of the people who spearheaded the Metrolink.
Yep.
Oh my God.
And was one of the people behind the scenes. I might even say it in there.
Yeah, the Rams. Yeah.
So the Rams. So one night, so I sent out this thing and I made 20 copies and sent it out to a lot of people. And one night we're at what was then, I think, Kiel Center up in the press box, and Al Kurth and I are just talking in the back of the press box. And he said, hey, I want you to know something. I said, what? He said, if it wasn't for that research that you did and that packet that you sent out, we never would have gotten the Rams. We didn't know what we were doing, and you at least gave us a roadmap as to how to get the Rams here. So that really meant a lot to me, because a guy who was intimately involved would say something like that, because I don't think that we had a clue as a community as to how to go about either keeping or getting a franchise. So I don't
Someone-
know. I don't know if that's right. But it was nice of him to say it to me.
Someone needs to do a documentary teaching people like me and people younger than me about people like Al Kurth.
He was unbelievable.
Because this is unbelievable. I knew the name Kurth was a pillar in St. Louis.
Mhm.
I had no idea that they have been, that he was the 5th generation, and they had all 5 generations had pretty much been impactful. He was a senior partner at Fleischman Hillard from 87 to 98. And then he took over Civic Progress from 89 to 98. And then from 98 to 2002, he was the president and chief executive of the Eads Center, a non-profit public affairs consultancy he founded designed to provide strategic counsel to groups that would bolster St. Louis, such as not-for-profit and community organizations. At the time of his death, former U.S. Senator John Danforth, with whom he often worked with on public projects with Mr. Kurth, was quoted as saying, Al Kurth was St. Louis's most important civic resource.
Yeah.
He was the person who, first of all, could conceive big ideas for St. Louis. He was also the person who could sell those ideas to civic leaders, the broader community, to politicians.
He was brilliant
I'm trying to find
and creative both.
I'm trying to find an accurate way to describe what I'm feeling right now, but it's kind of like discovering that Santa was real, but he died. And no one's picked up, and no one restarted the factory or restarted the toy deliveries, because I'm 10 years old in 2002. I have no and the thing is like obviously the Rams and the Metrolink are big parts of my life, but also I remember St. Louis 2004. Is that what it was called?
Yep.
St. Louis.
Yep.
I remember that being a huge deal. I'm pretty sure if you go into a box in my parents' basement right now, there is an entire box full of Energizer memorabilia, because I feel like they were everywhere across the entire year of 2004, all across Forest Park and everything. So, I mean, the fact that this guy had this kind of impact on my childhood and my life, and I never really knew who he was, and to hear somebody like John Danforth and obviously the Danforth family, their impact on St. Louis is unbelievable. But to hear the person who could, first of all, conceive of the big ideas and then could sell them to the business leaders and the politicians. I've wondered for a long time, every time I get into these long conversations about what happened to St. Louis over the last 20 years. And I'm putting together the puzzle. And you just handed me a pretty big piece.
Well, Al,
because my God, is that clearly just the visionary aspect, but the ability to sell the vision. It's clear that that we haven't been able to replace him.
Yeah. We would have kept the Rams if Al would have stayed alive.
Oh my God!
He would have found a way to build the stadium and force them to key to lease. This is another interesting thing, though, and another thing that you can look up is the X Prize.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
So they had the idea, Al Kurth and an entrepreneur by the name of Peter DeMiandis, and they wanted to spur civilian space travel, ironically, with the letter X, through a prize competition based on early 20th century aviation prizes like the Orteig Prize won by Charles Lindbergh. Kurth was inspired by the potential for business opportunities and helped DeMiandis and his associates form a Spirit of St. Louis committee similar to the one that supported Lindbergh's flight. And Kurth's involvement was crucial in getting the X Prize off the ground in St. Louis and secured the initial funding for space travel for civilians.
Unbelievable.
And now
literally
you've got
space tourism is a thing.
And it's SpaceX.
Is that why? Wait,
I think it's just a coincidence.
That's amazing.
That the two are there, but it's pretty remarkable.
It's hard to remember that the Titans used to walk these streets, and unfortunately, we just don't have the same level anymore. And it's not just in politics in the city. It's this. I say it every time something big happens. God, I wish I could just hear either Brian Burwell or Joe Strauss comment on this right now.
We have no foresight.
It's yes. We have no foresight. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah, it's a shame, but it is what it is. So anyway, there's a little story time from Uncle Randy for you.
There we go.
So that was a lot of story time.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Fun.
So Google, like Matthew just did, the name Al Kurth, and his son Danny doing great work in the public relations sphere in St. Louis now.
And here's the thing. I got to text Danny. I've known Danny. I've gotten really close with Danny over the last 5 or 6 years because when I started dating my current girlfriend, Danny was part of that friend group already. So I've gotten to know Danny really well. And the crazy thing is I never put together the thing because I remember I knew about Danny and people were like, yeah, his dad was a monolith. And I was like, oh yeah. And then I just never connected the actual dots to actually go Google his dad and find out the man was a titan, a monolith. And yeah, Danny does great work. And he's involved in a lot of great St. Louis charities and stuff like that. Oh God, that's incredible. I got to text him now and tell him I just learned that your dad's a freaking legend, dude. My God.
Legendary. Great work from Matthew Rocchio today. Who do we have tomorrow?
Tomorrow, I think we're going to be joined by Brendan Schaefer live from
to
Atlanta
after the All-Star game.
To after the All-Star game, obviously down in for SEC Media Days as well as Mizzou's getting ready to talk. So yeah, we'll have Brendan Schaefer live from SEC Media Days as at least one of our guests for tomorrow.
Outstanding. Great job by Wilson getting us and keeping us on the air. Nobody stepped on the plug today, which we really appreciate. And we appreciate you being a part of the Randy Karraker Show here on STL Sports Central. Don't forget, subscribe to the newsletter, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're watching this, like the video, follow us on all the socials at STL Sports Central, and we will see you tomorrow morning at 10:02. Have a great Taco Tuesday, everybody.